You have not fallen asleep in your own silence since March, and you call that a sleep routine. You keep a limit on your phone you could delete in 4 taps and have never once tried. That is not discipline. That is hiding inside somebody else's rule, so every stop arrives as weather. The lamp is off. The room runs on 2 light sources, a rectangle 6 inches from her face, and a strip of hall nightlight lying across the comforter like tape around a sterile field. She squares the flashcard stack to the lamp base, then turns the volume down 2 increments. How many nights does a protocol have to run before it stops being a choice? One earbud in, the ear facing the wall. The other stays open for the hallway. The far half of the blanket is unwrinkled. She has not shifted her weight since 1:31. The charge cable runs taut across the nightstand and taps the edge each time the radiator ticks under the window. The room smells like hot dust off the radiator and fabric softener bought in bulk. The app limit cuts the audio at 2 o'clock. At 1:55, a gray banner slides over the episode artwork. 5 minutes left. She reads the banner twice. The second read adds nothing. She does it anyway. The way she rereads a dosage she already got right. Under the gray bar sits a button. Ask for more time. 1 tap and the request lands on a phone charging down the hall. She turns the phone face down against the comforter, holds it there for 2 radiator ticks, turns it back. The banner is still there, 4 seconds thinner. Then she leaves the button alone. She opens the sleep timer instead, scrolls the wheel past 5, past 9, stops on 10. 10 minutes on a 5-minute window. She sets a number that cannot survive the cutoff, and she sets it carefully, the way she sets anything that has to look deliberate later. If it turns off on its own, that isn't me giving up. That's just the schedule. She turns the volume down 2 more increments. Waits. 2 more. The voice in her right ear is now quieter than the pipes knocking behind the wall, and she does not bring it back up. A thing she can barely hear is a thing she never asked for. Her free hand finds the flashcard stack and squares it to the lamp base again. It was already square. She runs a thumbnail down the corners anyway, top to bottom, once, then straightens the 1 card that was already flush. Downstairs, the compressor kicks on. A car goes by on wet asphalt. 1 car. And the sound of it arrives louder than the audio she is supposedly listening to. 3 minutes left on a window she did not ask to extend. A negotiation with 1 participant closes on time, every time. Nothing changes hands. At 2 o'clock, the voice in her right ear stops mid-word. Not at the end of a sentence, inside one. 5 minutes short of the 10 she gave herself. The screen grays over. 4 words sit in the center of it. Ask for more time. 1 tap. No hallway, no door, no waking anyone, no explaining, no volume required. Easier than the first thing she refused, by every measure she owns. She taps it. The dot spins twice. At 2:04, a banner drops over the lock screen. Approved. Time-stamped. Sent from a room down the hall by someone who will not remember doing it by morning. 15 minutes, borrowed, expiring at 2:19. She reads the approval banner, opens the note field under it, types 4 words, and deletes them 1 letter at a time. Backspace, 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 until the cursor sits alone. The cable taps the nightstand edge. The audio picks up in the middle of the word it dropped. The limit went onto the phone at 14. It was the week she was found awake at the kitchen counter before a chapter test. Index cards fanned across the placemat at 2 in the morning. And by the following Tuesday, there was a schedule with her name on it and a 4-digit code. She watched it get typed in. She has never once typed it herself. She never asked for the limit to come off, and the story she kept about that was a good one. It was, honestly, the most reasonable thing in the house. The rule held her margin of error small. It meant the reading stopped at a fixed hour whether or not she was finished, and a girl who stops on schedule does not slip. The weekly screen time report arrived every Sunday afternoon, 4 lines long. And every Sunday, it was clean. 62 minutes under, 41 minutes under. A checklist that checked itself. How comfortable is it to be a number that never needs a follow-up? Because the clean report did something it was never designed to do. It answered the question in the hallway before the question got asked. It stopped at the other door, the closed one, and it never once stopped at hers. She was not protecting her sleep. She was protecting the fact that nobody ever had to ask. What the rule actually bought was silence around one sentence, 12 words, that she cannot be alone with her own voice for 90 seconds. That was the whole of it. The schedule, the clean Sunday lines, the sleep timer set 5 minutes past a cutoff she already knew was coming. All of it was packaging around not saying it. Because a girl with a need has to be handled. She has to be sat down. Someone has to lower their own thing to make room, and then check the room afterward. Handling was the one thing this house had never had to do for her. No, that is too soft. Handling was the one thing she had made sure it would never have to do. So the need got routed around a rule instead of through a person. The cost is already charted. There was a friend who called every night through her last spring of high school, voice on speaker while she laminated her charts, talking about nothing, breathing on the other end of the line until one of them fell asleep. That stopped in March. 411 nights of borrowed voices since. Strangers, mid-sentence, on a timer. Not one of them ever asked her a single question. And here is the part that kept building itself. Every night the audio ran, the room got harder to be in afterward. So the next night started 10 minutes earlier, then one notch louder. Then the earbud went in before she was tired, because the gap between lying down and the voice starting had become the worst part of the day. She rounded herself down until what was left fit inside a schedule somebody else set, and then held up the fit as proof she was fine. Look how little room she takes. Look how nothing ever has to move for her. Nobody in that house ever had to lower anything for her. Not once. That was not an accident. That was the deliverable. You let the battery die Thursday instead of saying the one sentence at speaking volume, and you called that being easy to live with. She calls it that too. Somebody approved it in their sleep, and she has not said a word since. She was never keeping a rule. She was keeping the only job in the house nobody had to thank her for. And she kept it so well that the part shrank until it fit inside a gray banner 5 minutes wide. At 2:14, the hall light clicks on. The strip across the comforter widens. Footsteps. They stop at the bathroom, 6 feet from a door already open 2 inches. Close enough for 6 words at speaking volume. The faucet runs. 12 seconds, maybe 14. A cabinet closes. Her thumb stays where it is. The voice keeps going in her right ear. The light clicks off. The strip narrows back to where it was. 5 minutes left on the borrowed 15. She will set the phone face down on the nightstand and leave it there. And she will run tomorrow's differential against the ceiling. Cause, then contraindication, then dosage, then again from the top, until the window over the radiator goes gray. Inside a half hour, the stillness will read as chosen, and chosen will pass for rest. It holds until tomorrow night at 2:19, when the borrowed time cuts out again, and she is already awake underneath it, waiting for the cut. 3 months of that, and her hard reading starts at 9, then 8:30, then whenever the house is loudest. She declines anything that runs past 10. She answers how she slept before the question finishes. She will carry this one alone. Or she will stand in the kitchen tomorrow night, before the house goes down, dish towel folded twice in her hands, and ask her brother to sign her into his account, framed as a lab thing, a recording she needs offline, so she can pull 6 hours onto the laptop before the cutoff lands and never sit inside 219 again. The room will not get its turn. That holds until his Sunday report arrives. And the question in the hallway stops at his door over 6 hours that were never his. By spring, he closes the laptop when she walks in and starts accounting for a baseline she moved. He never gets told which hours were hers. Or, at first light, before the coffee finishes, she will stand at the counter with both hands flat on it and say the limit comes off today, and then say the other part at speaking volume, that she has not fallen asleep without a voice in her ear since March. The code gets typed in inside 10 minutes. Nobody makes a scene. That holds exactly until the next night at 2:19, when nothing closes for her, and the room is hers, whether she wants it or not. What it costs is her mother, checking the doorway before bed, checking it again after, asking again at breakfast, and a daughter who is now a standing box on somebody's checklist. The radiator ticks twice, out of rhythm. The compressor cycles off downstairs and the room gets a full shade quieter. The charger coil whines. The cable taps the nightstand edge, once. At some point between the hallway and now, the phone went face down on the comforter. She does not remember putting it there. Her thumb lifts the phone toward the settings icon, holds there, and sets it back face down. The flashcard stack is square to the lamp base. The far half of the blanket is still unwrinkled. Behind the wall, a pipe knocks and stops. At 2:19, the audio ends mid-sentence for the second time, and she does not reach for it. The room is quiet. Count what it cost.